I can't wait for you to hear today's episode of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. My friend Cathy Colburn is joining us talking about the importance of listening, democracy, realizing and being grateful for all of the things that we've been given, particularly in the United States. When our country was founded, the indigenous tribes lived here too, but founded by all of these people that were seeking new and exciting things. We're also talking about her book, The Metafix. So listen in as we continue this conversation. Welcome to Lead Your Life, the podcast for people who are seeking harmony in business and in life. My name is Debbie Heiser, and I'm an inner mastery and business mindset coach and the chief igniter here at The Lit Up Life. I feel an urgency to help people let go of past messaging so that they can make a lot of money doing what they love without sacrificing what they value most. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Straight from the corners of my mind is where I find my sanity. It's a place, another land.
Hello. This is Debbie Heiser with The Lit Up Life, and we are here with my good friend Cathy Colburn for this podcast of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. And I'm a little I don't know what the word is, but we were joking. And so I'm going to hit up a dare here because I was singing at the top of my lungs yesterday, my favorite Disney tunes. Don Tavania.
In other words,
And so for those of you tuning in, you know this one's going to be a fun one because Cathy makes me laugh a whole lot. And let me tell you, because this is kind of how I usually do it, how I met Cathy, how we started to interact, and why I wanted to have her on the podcast. So Cathy and I met through a mutual friend at a dinner party, and we just started talking, and I thought she was really interesting anyway, because it's hotter than Hades, and I don't like heat. And she's in this really cute little outfit. I think you had like, if I recall, it was almost like a jean skirt and a blouse on that was it was feminine. And you had cowboy boots on, and I'm like, how in the world is she managing to have cowboy boots on in this heat, right? And I thought, I want to get to know this girl. So we sat there and talked for a while, and then Cathy is part of my inaugural mastermind. And there's just so many interesting things about Cathy, which is why I wanted to have you on the podcast. She got me to wear cowboy boots. We went line dancing, so I wore cowboy boots in the middle of the summer as well. But Cathy is a powerhouse, and you are someone that just intrigues me. Like, you are so wickedly smart and have so much wisdom for people. And if you want to know some of her wisdom, there's this little thing that she wrote called The Metafix, a book that you can find out on Amazon. I highly recommend, and we'll talk about that book a little bit today, as well as energy and anything that's just on our mind. And so Cathy, I'm going to have you introduce yourself though, and tell a little bit about, I know, right? Like, whew, and tell us a little bit about kind of your past history when it comes to like things you've done. And we're just going to take off into a conversation.
I went to a workshop and she's like, I'm going to give you 1 minute to talk about yourselves. I'm like, I can't do it in a minute. I'm too old for that.
Well, that's good because we got about 30 minutes. So,
so I started on a great childhood, started on the path of rigid, structured. I was an engineer in college and worked as an engineer. And then, always kind of followed my instinct a little bit, but was really more following the grid and the laws of gravity and all that. And then I got married to an engineer, and then my kids got sick. I had difficulty becoming a parent with stillborns and miscarriages, and then when I finally became a parent through both adoption and homemade, the two of the kids had serious illnesses for like a year, chemo, tumors, and all the scary words. He was 3 years old at the time, and he did a Make-A-Wish trip, and the trip, I think, is what saved him, because he'd smiled for the first time in 6 months,
Oh
and
my gosh, Kathy, where'd you
and
go? What was the trip?
his wish, we got a twofer. His wish was to see the space shuttle launch,
Oh,
but
that's
while it was delayed, they sent us to Disney World. So
so we got both. I love that. I love that. Of course, the universe does that. So you have children, they're going through some sickness. The
mhm.
Make-A-Wish Foundation, what you're saying, saved his life because of
Yeah,
joy that came in from that.
yeah.
Then what happened? Because you have three, right?
I have 3, and I was pregnant with the 3rd when he was diagnosed, so it was just very chaotic, and then that baby, was sick about, I think he was about 10 months old. It was, like, 6 weeks after that, his clean bill of health, the 3-year-old's clean bill of health, and so that's where, my brain kinda switched. Like, I thought at first, like, everyone has a story, everyone has a struggle, and when the second illness was just so quick behind the first one, I was like, "We don't know anything." It's like that Confucius quote, "Every everyone has 2 lives, and the second one begins when you realize you have one." And
Yeah.
that just kinda changed my perspective. It opened up my world. I talked my husband at the time into selling the business, and we toured the world. We lived in New Zealand for a year, and I've been to like 87 countries now, but we did most of it in a 2-year time. And so
Oh,
it
wow.
just,
I didn't
yeah,
realize that.
yeah, most of it was
Wow.
within 2 years. Took them out of school. I call it hotel schooling because we weren't home. I had an online curriculum, and we just kind of blended history into wherever we were,
Yeah.
and talked about culture, and then we were both engineers, so we were geeking out on the math and science. But
Yeah.
um, so that I came back from that going, somebody needs to do something, because I just saw so much of the world, and it dissolved so many beliefs that I didn't know I was holding, because like we always do it this way. And then you go into different cultures and you see they do it
Yeah.
a different way. And then you go to another culture, and then another culture and another culture. And I had all these epiphanies of like the kids' perspective, like they were looking through their eyes going, why aren't they in school?
Right.
Because these kids their age, they see them out. And I was like, well, they're fishing for their family's food,
Right.
'cause we were in
Right.
the jungle in Peru or something, or we were in, you know, and it shifted my brain so much that I didn't know how to assimilate it, and I was like, kind of frustrated when I came home. Like somebody needs to do something, because one of the conclusions I came to was, if if women are going to um, I don't know how to say it, but uh, own their power,
Yeah.
own, step forward, and kind of like demand what they want in life, and fight against prejudices and stuff. It's going to have to happen, in the United States, was my perspective. I could be wrong, but after seeing it, like a lot of other countries, like in the Middle East, it was more obvious. But their their fears are, bodily harm, where our fears are just judgment, or
Right.
exclusion from some group, or FOMO. And I was
Right.
like, if
One time I
we're gonna
think,
have
oh, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. I was just saying, we're gonna have to start here to make
Yeah.
change.
One time I saw something where somebody had a group of people up on stage and there were like 100 people and they said, 10 of you, I want you to go stand over here to the left. That represents that if you were born in the United States and grew up in the United States, you are in that top 10% already, right? Like, and it was such a huge, so that's what I hear you saying too, is like, not that we're more evolved or anything like that, but like more so there's just I don't want to say privilege, but a little bit, right? Like there's this privilege, like where we're thinking about women have more, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, because power is really not the word that I want to use.
Options.
Yeah, more options, more freedom
Hmm.
than in a lot of other countries. Yeah.
So I remember I was in Egypt, and the tour guide was like, wow, what's it like, living in the United States? It must be amazing, because, like not only did you start this way, but for hundreds of years, 200 years, everyone who's been an open thinker, out of the box thinker, creative, mind went to America. So it just must be full of people just with crazy wild ideas and wanting to do that. So not only do we have these options in our structure of education and
Right.
and running water and all this stuff we take as givens, we have the minds. We've been gravitating all these kind of minds with us, because if you having a trouble expressing yourself in your country, you can come here. It's
Yeah, that's
not
a good point, Kathy.
easy, but yeah. I mean, that's what he was saying, and it just changes your perspective. I'm like, well, somebody needs to do something, and that's when you kind of learn that leadership isn't what you thought it was.
Right.
Leadership is like, well, no one else is going to do it. I better do it.
Right, right. So you've had these awarenesses and these impactful kind of shifts for you based on those cultures. And so you spent 2 years traveling the world. What happened after that 2 years?
But I didn't really assimilate it gracefully. I I was, frustrated and annoyed and, trying to lash out at anyone who I thought should be doing something differently. And I started going to my husband, basically at the time. We're divorced now, but he sent me to this workshop, and that was it. After that workshop, I'm like, I know what I need to do with this nonprofit we had. And so I created a nonprofit for women
Mhm.
aging out of foster care, kind of, or on their own somehow.
Yeah,
And we went to a week where I took care of all their Maslow's um,
basic.
lower needs, and let them think about and kind of get in touch with their instinct, because my thought was they might not have the role model that a lot
Yeah,
of us have in
yeah.
parents. And like for me personally, I had to kind of find a role model in history. I decided who I wanted to be like was Elizabeth Cady Stanton,
Tell me
who
who that is, because I don't know if I know who that is.
she she was effectively started the women's suffrage. She
Okay. Okay.
she was she was in she was like in the group, and she's like this soft-spoken speaker, and she's like, we should vote, and all the people were like all upset, like they're gonna think we're crazy. And after a couple years of working on this, she met Susan B. Anthony, and so as a team, Stanton had a husband and kids, so she would write all the speeches, and then Susan B. Anthony would go out and give the speeches.
Ah,
Stanton wrote the 19th Amendment. So, so I'm like, that's who I want to be. I'm like stir the pot and still have my family life. And
right. That's awesome. Well, and let's talk
I,
about that.
uh-huh.
Because you came back, you started this nonprofit, and what a wonderful thing. And is it still going? I don't know if I've ever asked you that.
No, it was a casualty of the divorce, I call it. But yeah, it was I was better at creating the curriculum and the content and running it than I was about fundraising.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome though, that's something that's needed. I know I have a friend I used to work with at Citibank that has two adopted children, and we were talking about how like foster care, because she fostered kids a lot, and how I don't know if a lot of people know this. So I think this is a great forum to talk about this, and the fact that once a child that's in foster care reaches 18, it's pretty much like, I don't even know if they give them any funds, but they just say you're pretty much out of the system and we're not going to care for you. So then
yeah,
Maslow's hierarchy, they have no place to live. There's no
right.
safety, like they're on their own at 18. And to your
A lot
point,
of them joined the
haven't had role
military.
models.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was. My brother and his wife have fostered, I think, 52 kids
Wow.
through their home.
Yeah.
And some of them they had for a short time, and some of them they had for years. And the one that I had the hardest time, um, I don't know, feeling good about was the one that turned 18, because my brother and his wife were like, you don't have to leave, you can stay here. But she had trouble believing it and receiving it. And so she joined the Coast Guard because they want to belong. So a lot of them joined something like that.
Yeah.
A lot of them, just have a kid right away. So they have some family or something, but I, I was most upset by that one. And there are some programs that kind of help them transition out. And that's who we partnered with to try to um, uh, get recommendations for women to come to the program. But yeah, they're on their own, and like you were saying, the role models weren't always the positive
Yeah.
role model.
Yeah. And not everybody in the fostering that are foster parents are all that awesome at it too.
Right.
So it's
Right.
kind of a crapshoot there. So you did this, I think you lived in Michigan, if I recall.
Yep.
So fast forward, what made you, I want to talk about what you do today.
Okay.
And so tell us a little bit about what you do and what was the catalyst to kind of move you into more of this work?
Well, the short answer is life experience was the catalyst. Like I the metaphor is once you're in the lifeboat, you want to turn around and help other people out of the water.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like that I went through this workshop, and I went through, I did for the first 3 years after that first workshop, I did one workshop a month for 3 years. So I was
Host
diving in, no,
You went to one.
attending
Okay.
and hosting. We didn't host them that often. We did it annually, but the I forgot where I was going.
Sorry, you went to a workshop every month.
Yeah, and so I was just learning and learning, and then like the more you the more you learn. For me, some people, they go through a couple workshops and they're like, all right, I've reached a new level of happiness. I can just live my life. Well, not me. I'm like a pit bull with a pork chop. I just wanted more and more and more. And then my friends and family started needing my support in that kind of a way. And I was like, why am I just limiting this to family and friends? So I start offering coaching services and
So let's talk
um,
about what
yeah,
you said,
classes.
that type of service. What is it?
Mhm.
What do you do?
I don't know how to describe it. Um,
Well, I can
I
try.
guess I guess two chapters in the book are communication, and one of the one of the key things in communication is listening. And there's different ways of listening and how we do use listening filters
Yeah.
and in the short answer is listen with curiosity.
Mm.
And I was taking all these trips, and I was making the people next to me on the plane start to cry, and they're like, how do you make all these people cry? And I go, it's you go like this. Huh. Yeah, that's how you make them cry. You just listen. Like, and listen with curiosity. You really want to know their story, and if they want to go there and they feel safe. um and that's like feeling safe is probably the key to it, because these women that I started working with had never really experienced safety,
Yeah.
safe
Yeah.
listener. And so I say the short answer is I'll start by listening to them, and then the tools that I've learned help help me help them find their own answers.
Yeah.
I like my goal is really to work myself out of a job, because they'll learn the tools and they'll take them with them, and then next time they come up with an obstacle or something they need to work through, they'll have their own tools to look at and use.
Wow. I
So I
love that
do a little
'cause
teaching and a little listening.
yeah. And Cathy, I love that because, you've heard me say this before. I feel like my role is to help people find their own teacher within, right? And provide tools and ask questions. And so we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back. And I want to dig a little bit more into what prompted you to write the book, what's the book about, and all of that kind of good stuff. So we'll be right back, folks. Let's face it, sometimes as an entrepreneur and a business leader, we need some guidance, support, and community. So we here at The Lit Up Life have 3 ways that you can work with us in order to achieve that. As a private client, we work together to quantum leap your business by discovering strategies to help you move past what's holding you back and allow you to identify what you want your life to look like. The result, your business becomes the conduit to the lifestyle, success, and impact that you intend. Now, I'm a huge believer in the power of collaboration. So in our community masterminds, you can join in with other high vibrational business owners who want to level up, increase impact, and financial gain, all with a tribe of other women to support and encourage you on your journey. Currently, we're accepting application for this women's mastermind group, which is a year-long program for women in business who are ready for that next level of success. We create deep personal awareness in a safe and supportive space where you can experience growth with others who are on that same path. Through weekly sessions with our program coaches, teachings that go beyond the buzzwords, and immersive retreats in places like Mexico, the Dominican Republic, or Belize, we work together to create long-term abundance and lasting impact in your life and business. The last and final way to get involved with us is our group coaching programs. They provide the opportunity for teaching, masterminding, and feeling like you aren't alone on this ride. Come join us. Welcome back. It's Cathy Colburn and I having a conversation about all sorts of different things. And we're going to delve now, though, into this awesome book that she's written. I have to be honest, I have not read it yet, but I've been holding myself back for 3 or 4 days because I'm getting ready to take a trip and want to read it on the plane. And partially because I've had so much going on that I haven't had a chance to do much reading this week. And so I'm super excited to go out of town in 3 days so I can crack this sucker open a little bit more. But you can find this on Amazon. And so, Cathy, tell us, like, what prompted you to write the book, and tell us a little bit about what the book's about.
I guess it was, I had an outline for a workshop. I was going to host a workshop, and I was going to start marketing it in May of 2020. And so I was in Washington, D.C. I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time, and a friend who's a ghostwriter, Alex Riekelman, came into town because he was coming in from Scotland, and he had to quarantine, and then it was Mother's Day, so his girlfriend's mother lives in D.C. So anyway, we went for a walk around the monuments, and I've known him since he was a kid, and I just started talking about how I saw during COVID, I saw so much fear and people not really knowing how to process it and people looking for some way through it. Some of them was like, we need to protect ourselves. Some of them is we need to attack other people. Some of it, they were just lashing out in every coping skill they found as a child that worked for them. And I wanted to give people a way to work through the fear as more like an adult than like a child.
Yeah.
And these are tools to help you, like, what are our acceptable outlets for anger?
Yeah.
What can we do? Because we can't even have a fit on the soccer field anymore as a kid. We
Right.
have to be a good sport.
Yeah.
Even pros get a red card for faking a injury, but they all fake the injury. So, it's like, that's just another childish coping mechanism for things not going the way you want. And I was like, I
Yeah.
need to spell it out to people. So that was really the impetus.
Okay. And I love that because had you seen yourself as an author prior to this, or was this like, because this was starting out as a workshop, and then to your point, and you said 2020 and kind of grinned for those of you listening on the podcast land, in the realm that we all know what happened in 2020, right? And so
I
workshop,
moved into my house
right?
March 14th, 2020.
Oh yeah, and then the world shut down on March 17th. Or no,
I'm like, everyone talks about traffic in DC and I don't see any.
yeah. Oh, that's great. So tell us a little bit about, because when I read the back here, and I want to read this out loud, the back of her book says, we often try to improve ourselves through persistence and discipline, then find that what we resist persists. It is not random circumstances that shape our lives. It is our beliefs about ourselves and the world. So to change your beliefs would provide an incredible shift in your reality. Ask yourself, what would change in your life if you managed to change your beliefs? If you can answer that question, then you can find what you really want deep down, as I have. So tell us a little bit more about what's in the, other than me reading
Well,
through.
I quote John Mayer's song Belief
Yeah.
in the song, in the chapter about beliefs, because he says in the song, like, has anyone ever put their sign down from something someone else yelled real loud one time? And I'm like, that's not how you change beliefs. You don't. Beliefs are hard to change, because I work with people that want to change a belief and it's still hard.
Mm.
And so just kind of recognizing how powerful it is, and then that they're optional. Like,
Mhm.
like you can change your font, and you can change the
Ah,
color of your background and all that. You can do that in Sign. You can say, this belief worked for me for a really long time, but it's not working for me now. How do I let it go?
yeah.
Like,
That's
children should be seen and not heard. So that's why the number one fear is public speaking,
isn't that
because you
interesting?
carried that belief with you, and you don't really recognize that it's not working for you. You don't really recognize how to change it, because we're not taught that. So,
Right. And because we just think that's the way it is. So to your point about visiting all those other countries, you thinking, oh, this is just how it is. But then when you get to these other countries, and I kind of understand slightly, because when I moved from the Midwest to the Pacific Northwest, I showed up and was working with some high school students, and I'm like, oh, do you go to high school in Sandpoint at the, high school? And they're like, no, I do at home high school. And then I'm like, what? That's an option, right? Like, and then it's like, oh no, I'm homeschooled, or oh no, I go to the charter school. And I'm like, whoa, right? In the Midwest, you just went to the public school system. And I'm not saying public schools are good or bad, but it was just the way it was, right?
yeah.
And so I understand slightly what you're saying, because it's a very different culture here than in the Pacific Northwest than it is in the Midwest.
Yeah. And I
Um,
married someone who grew up out of the country. And I'm like, you haven't seen The Wizard of Oz?
yeah, right.
Come on. There's too many metaphors in that not to watch it.
It makes me wonder how many kids these days, because that used to be an annual thing, and we lived in the Midwest, and so we'd always watch it in April. That's when it would come out on TV, because we didn't have streaming.
Right.
Myself.
We would go to same friend's house every year.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was always during.
Parents would have a party upstairs,
Yep, and we'd all be
and I would,
downstairs watching, and the monkeys would come on, and we'd all be like, "Oh, we're scared."
and I'd run upstairs and sit on my mom's lap.
Yep, exactly. And it was always during tornado season. That's what always killed me, because I'm like, seriously, people.
Yeah.
Put more fear in there. So tell us a little bit more, like, from a belief perspective, because, well, I'm just going to share when I've kind of breezed through, like, done one of these, there are exercises in here too. So it's not just a straight through read, right? Like,
No. Yeah.
tell us, like, what was it like?
Well, it's I think I know where you're going. It's the philosophy of they have their own answers.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can tell you how to find your own answer, but you can't just have me tell you, because that's my answer. And so I have some questions in there for them to, stir up ideas and find their own solution.
Yeah, I love
So,
that. And because a lot of times people will ask the questions, like I think about the book that we're going through, and she offers up and says, go do these exercises. But what I love about yours is you actually leave room in the book
yeah,
to, like, write the answers, where a lot of
yeah,
times I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get back to that, right? But this is
yeah.
like, it's in your face, and it's like, don't turn the page yet, because you're not done reading. You got to write some stuff down, right? I
And
love
it's
that.
funny, on one of them, I said, write as many as you can. Don't hold back. And I only give them like a couple
Oh,
lines.
that's,
So in some of them, you might need some extra paper.
yeah, but to the point, it's right there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And particularly those of us that tend to be more of rule followers, it's like we want to finish before we turn the page. And so there's
Hmm.
that piece to there.
And you'll get more from it. And if
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so part of this too, using the power of creativity to shape belief, when we think about creativity, we know it's inside of us, and somebody has something, like we were talking a little bit about the conclusion of your book. And tell us a little bit about like if you, I'm not having you summarize because I'm telling people not to go read the book, because this is, I'm so anxious to get into this thing. But if you had to look at and say, there's one thing that I just really want you to get out of the messages that you have, whether it's verbal or in print, what would that be?
It would be to identify why you want something. If you want something, try to find the what you think you'll get as a result, because that is usually a feeling.
Mhm.
I want to have more money so I can feel secure, or I want to have more money so I can have more options, or I want to have a relationship so I can feel connected and I can feel supported. There's always a feeling that you want to get from it.
Yeah,
And that feeling is really what you want. And that feeling can be gotten in infinite amount of ways.
yeah,
And so sometimes we get tripped up on we want something and it's in someone else's power to give us that. But if you can say, oh, well, what I want to feel is, supported, where can I get support in my life right now, today, where it's up to me? And
where do I
and
feel support? Yeah,
and then feel that feeling. So
yeah.
that's the short answer. That's the secret I wish everyone would know is that they can they can have everything they want because really what they want is a feeling, and that could be done in a room by yourself.
And to your point, identifying like where you currently have it. Like I have a mentor that says, in the absence of searching for happiness is where you find happiness, right? Like identifying in your life today, where is it that you have this feeling of happiness? Where is it, like start noticing those things every day, because then what you focus on gets bigger. And it's almost like when I bought my Subaru, I never saw Subarus. And I know that's called something and I can't ever remember what it's called, but and then all of a sudden I started seeing them everywhere, right?
Mm.
And so this idea of
Well,
understand,
and then once you have that feeling, then that feeling is drawn to you more and supported. So,
I love
like
it.
I had a friend who she's frustrated because nothing was getting done. I was like, well, make a bigger list and do stuff you can cross off, right? Brush your teeth on it. And so you could cross it off. And she started crossing stuff on her list. And then the other stuff that she'd been waiting on started getting done and being crossed off because you're in that vibration of getting tasks done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool, Kathy, because this idea of finding that why behind what it is that you want, it does go down to a feeling and an emotion. And because our thoughts and our feelings are so connected. And so when we don't end up doing something that we say we want, what I find a lot of times, it's because the why, the belief that like that why behind it, there's something else that why is connected to.
Yeah, it comes what you want comes with a price you don't want to pay, or you don't really want it. You just
Right.
think you want it. Like you want that degree that mom and dad were so excited about you getting. You didn't really want it. So that's what you might, or it could be you don't really know what you want. And so you're just grasping onto things.
Yeah. And a lot of times what I see, particularly people that have a W-2 job that then start their own business, is their desire for security is a lot higher than their desire to take risk and go out and start their own business. So they get frustrated because they don't understand why they're not willing to go do that. But it's because they have to untangle, and
They
find
find other
security
ways to
somewhere
feel
else.
security.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's really powerful, Kathy. And we could probably talk for hours on this, but and who knows, once I read the book, we might have to have you back next year and talk a little more
I'm
about this.
here.
But I want to, it's kind of coming to a close here. So I have some questions that I typically ask. And for those of you listening, I do prep them beforehand, because a lot of times when I ask people on the spot, certain things are like, oh my gosh, I don't know. So I know you've had a little time to think about this, Kathy, but if you could say a book that's been impactful to you, and I want to say to people, go out and buy Metafix, because she does have a resource list in the back of this that has some really goodies. But what would you say is a book that you would recommend to people?
My favorite book, um, is A Whole New Mind by Daniel Pink.
Okay.
Because I was coming from such a logical engineering mind, and it opened me up to be able to open the right side of my brain and do some of the intuition and instinct and playful and design and all that, and not let go or dishonor the left side. It seemed to me before I read the book that it was like an either or, and the whole new mind is like use the right and the left, that they can help each other, and you'll go further with both.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And then if we were to go out to wherever you stream your music, what is the most played song?
Into the Mystic by Van Morrison. It's just such a perfect song, but it's always a reminder of where I want to go, you know.
Yeah.
It helps me get out of ruts, and it helps me go from where I am into where I want to go at the same time.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Cathy, if someone wants to learn a little bit more about what you do and how they might work with you when it comes to energy work, finding this why behind your want and moving forward into that, where would you send them?
My website,
Which is?
themetafix.com with a PH.
Perfect. And we'll have that in the show notes as well. And so, Cathy, thank you so much for your time today. I so appreciate you and your brilliance and sharing with the world. And so again, I'm going to put a plug out there, go out to Amazon and order the Metafix. And so with that, folks, it's a wrap. Thank you again, Cathy.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing all this into the world.
You betcha. Thank you. And we will see everybody next week. Talk to you soon. That's a wrap for this conversation. I'm so glad you've joined us. Remember to subscribe to the podcast so you can catch all of our future episodes, and visit us at thelituplife.com for details on how you can become part of the Lit Up Life community. A quick shout out to my friend Jackie Wilson and her friends, the creators of our amazing theme music. Thanks so much for allowing us to share this perfect song with our listeners. Looking forward to having you listen in to our next episode.